The Great Leap. Children of Inoron, Book 1. By Dan Hanley. Prologue. The ringing in her ears would not stop. There she stood, unblinking. The chaotic scene in front of her played out in perfect detail on her glassy, deep-set eyes. The inferno blazed, and like a swarm of locusts, the townspeople descended upon it with buckets of water from the well. The marshal screamed orders over the roar of the fire. Mothers yelled for their children. Water loudly sizzled as it doused small parts of the blaze. She could see nor hear any of it, for her mind and her senses were not under her control. The darkness of the night was illuminated almost entirely by the flames. The sanctuary burned. The sanctuary of Inoron was the focal point of their entire lives. It was the centre of their town, Penny Grove, their religious centre, trade centre, and school. Narian activity was conducted in the grove without some part of it being managed within the doors of that circular, domed stone building. And now, the blaze consumed it, and she could do naught but stare in horror as she was wrenched away to a more comfortable place. A calming place, a place of beauty and wonder. She was often brought to these places whenever hardship bubbled up around her. It was her survival mechanism. Despite her eyes being fixated on the fire, she could still picture the gorgeous rolling hills, long grass swaying in the wind flurries, the sun, cool but bright. The incessant ringing in her ears worked hard to bury the sounds of the desperate rush of the townsfolk. Her body and mind were working in tandem to force her away from their terrifying reality. Growing up in Penny Grove had not granted Fleeta Timber the same experience as that of her peers. Her entire 16 years of life were filled with pain, anger, and torment. She had nothing that was wholly hers. Her life decisions were made for her. She had no possessions to speak of. Even the clothes on her back were provided for her by others in the town as acts of charity. Her family were at the bottom of a long pecking order within the grove, so much that they were almost on the verge of destitution. Her parents couldn't allow her to culture her own life because she was needed to help them support theirs. On top of all of this, her bodily autonomy was torn from her regularly on a whim by her cruel uncle, the very person charged with her care whilst her parents worked to provide for them. The entrancing fires did not furnish her with the same sense of loss that many of the townspeople were feeling. For her, the fires represented change. She could hopefully, finally emerge from these fires with a new sense of purpose, a new mission, one that she alone could control. As resolute as she felt, there was still a raw terror that gripped her. Was the terror just a natural response to change, or something more? Just as a toddler who learned to walk unaided, she knew the path ahead would be fraught with dangers, but she would emerge with a new sense of freedom that only she would oversee. "Flee!" Her brother's pet name for her, screamed in her face, snapped her back to Penny Grove. As the sunlit hills faded and the thick, orange-tinted smoke-shrouded night revealed itself once more, she saw her twin, Bronson, in front of her, reaching out to shake her from her fantasy. She held a hand out and recoiled in anticipation of his touch. "Why are you just standing there?" He paused. "Did you get it?" She nodded. "Well, where is it?" "Not there." Bronson buried his head in his hands. "What are we going to do?"